Yeah, so a big hello to all the viewers. Welcome again to the D-Life India, DLife.in channel. So I'm Shashi here, your host today. I'm a low-carb nutrition coach on the D-Life-In panel, and I am also the only Indian to be accredited by the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioner US, and I have more than 10 certifications on low-carb subject. So for all those who are watching this program, this is not a medical or nutrition advice. People are requested to take the guidance of their doctors and a low-carb nutritionist for any change. Now, D-Life is a community platform for low-carbers. It's a platform for those suffering from diabetes, obesity, PCOS, and other metabolic syndrome. And D-Life India has over 250 success stories. And then we have more than 1,200 dishes, low-carb Indian dishes. Last year, D-Life India has also started what's called as a diploma in low-carb nutrition for those aspiring to start their own low-carb ketogenic diet practice. And more info on this is available in the D-Life-In website. So D-Life was developed by Anup Singh, who is an engineer from IIT Roorkela. So friends, today we have a very, very special guest from US. He is from Phoenix, Arizona, USA. He is a nurse practitioner and a very, very interesting case of remission of bipolar disorder. So we have Francis Levandowski III. Now, I think all of you must be knowing, or let me inform you that bipolar disorder is a very difficult to treat condition. And Francis has been having this disorder for more than 13 years. And on multiple medication, he has seen multiple doctors. His story is so unique that I think India needs to hear. And what's important is he has found a breakthrough remedy in form of ketogenic diet. The message which should be spread not only in India, but the world over in all the continents. So Francis also has served United States Air Force. He's a disabled veteran from the military trauma and had a bipolar episode at the age of 20. So rest, I will ask Francis to introduce himself. So Francis, can you briefly introduce yourself and please tell us your story?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, I love the culture from India. I've met so many amazing people in America from India. I think your nation is beautiful. I think America should look at the positives that India is doing and try to add that to us, right? I don't like the egocentric behavior in America where we think we're better than other people. We are not. We're an amazing nation. I would give up my life any day for the American flag. And I did. I signed a blank check for 8 years in the Air Force. And the saddest day of my life was when I was disqualified from serving in the military, being bipolar 1. That broke my heart. I would give up any VA money or benefits to continue to wear the uniform. And I actually went into medicine to become an officer. I was enlisted, which means I was like a grunt, right? I was actually an air conditioning guy in the Air Force for 8 years and a cop. I worked with the security forces. So I've done a lot of things. My top I'm 33 years old. I'm a single male, no kids. I have a girlfriend that I plan to marry. She's amazing. First healthy relationship of my life. Very excited. I have amazing family and friends. I am not the classic picture of mental health, right? Mental health stigma kills a lot of people every day. So I'm sick and tired of it. I am clinically, I've never existed in the literature because I've searched for 13 years. My story has never been told in history. If you can imagine, my top 3 diagnoses are bipolar 1, probably rapid cycling, which means I'm the most dangerous form of bipolar, and to self, right? I've never hurt anyone else. I'm not violent because I've been able to fight that off. And I have Asperger's. So that's a new diagnosis. And I have complex PTSD. So I am a balance of neurology, psychiatry, and psychology. I should have died clinically. Probably I should have committed suicide around age 12. My first psychiatric symptom was around birth. I've had sleep problems since around age 3. I was molested at age 3. And again, I was not abused by my family or friends. It was non-family members because I want to protect my family, because I don't want people to assume things. So clinically, I've read the literature And being Asperger's, I did self-diagnose, but I'm going to a top expert here in a month. He's one of the top experts in the world. I have to go to the top experts in the world to get help. Can you imagine that? And then I had to realize, okay, I think my IQ is off the charts. Okay. And I'm telling you that because I have Asperger's and all I do is pattern recognition. So I don't like to be an N of one, which means, you know, I am a future case study. I will literally be a very impactful case study because I haven't existed yet. Most bipolar patients are not stable enough to finish a study. I'm that dangerous. I'm that erratic, right? Complex PTSD is PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I have so much trauma. The only thing that saved me was my IQ and Asperger's. Does that make sense? I should have died 20 years ago. I'm 20 years past expiration date clinically, and that's via literature based on my risk. When you talk to high-level psychiatrists, I've had like 5 of them go, I don't know how you're alive today. And they were scared. Can you imagine what that's like? Because I don't do well with social cues. So I'm like, I feel good because I'm like, oh, wow, I am special. Because I've been trying to tell people that. They're like, no, you're normal. No, I'm so weird. I've never existed. So imagine that. That's very lonely. I mean, I don't have a one tribe, they call it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's been frustrating. I've dealt with hypomania, bipolar symptoms, right? My first bipolar episode was in the military at age 20. And again, I don't know. I'm a 6'1", 180 pound white guy. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I have great family and friends. I'm not the picture of mental health, but I have SMI. I am serious mental illness. Does that make sense? Like, I don't make sense clinically. So when I speak, it's like, I just want people to hear me. I just want people to go, hey, I just want people to go, yeah, you're right. That's all I want to hear. I don't have an ego. I'm really tired of people telling me how I should feel. And then people tell me what they know, but I'm not in the literature. So, traditional medicine bothers me because real science is the scientific method. Would you agree? So the scientific method, I learned this in 4th grade, is that you challenge anything, right? I don't care if we challenge the earth is flat. I don't care, right? I think it's silly. That's fine. Keep challenging it. You challenge that hypothesis, right? And if the experiment comes out the same every time, great. That's what science is. Traditional medicine is not about science. It was a dogma, ideology, ego, lack of humility, corruption, fraud. I could continue, but I think most people would agree.
Yeah. So Francis, before we proceed ahead, I think we need to explain to the audience what is bipolar. Now, many people who are joined here, they know what is bipolar. I think for the general population, can you tell in a very simple language what exactly is bipolar? Very simple language.
All right.
Full of lines.
So very simple. I'm speaking as a clinician and I'm speaking as a patient. I believe I might be a top 5 expert in bipolar in the world. I went to the top one in the world who was 83 years old, and he said he didn't see me in 40 years. So imagine that. And he had 40 years of bipolar experience specifically because bipolar is so tricky to treat. We are in the mood disorder spectrum, which is separate, right? Mood disorder spectrum means schizophrenia, bipolar, severe mental illness. We're like brother and sister, right? And bipolar, some basic statistics is like, it's 1 to 2% of the population. It's across the world. We have a 20% suicide completion rate, 50% suicide attempt rate. It's arguably the most difficult disorder psychiatrically to treat. I have a lot of psychiatrists that go, I don't know what to do with you. So I go, okay. And I have 3 psychiatrists because I'm actually educating some of them because they don't know how to handle me. Not only that, there's a spectrum. So real bipolar, I followed a mood center, which I agree, mood treatment center in America. And they actually, their hypothesis is it's much more like 5% of the population. right? So bipolar, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, my personal experience, there's more of a spectrum, right? The DSM-5, which is the Bible of psychiatry, it's a book of definitions. That's what we use in psychiatry to code, right? And basically it puts your condition and has 2 paragraphs in it and says, this is what you are. Like it's not, you can't put the human condition into 2 paragraphs. It's not the way the brain works.
Yeah. So Francis, sorry to interrupt you. So I think to put it very simple for our audience, what is bipolar is? It is two extreme poles, South Pole and North Pole. And one is where we are extremely optimistic, elated, joy. And the other one is like depression, depression.
Here, I have a basic one. So sorry, I have really high IQ, so I'm trying to learn how to talk about it. So the average brain, 95% of people, as we talked about that spectrum, 95%, your emotional range is here. Bipolar is here.
Yeah.
Okay. We have emotional range that you do not have. Okay. It is pathology. I believe the actual foundation is a metabolic issue in the brain, which Dr. Chris Palmer has the theory on. He's a new book called Brain Energy, and I'm in work with him and Dr. Georgia Eid, who both saved my life, the top 2 psychiatrists in the world. But bipolar disorder has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Okay. It is a form of evolution, in my opinion, and it can be managed without medication. Doesn't mean medication doesn't help. Okay. So this anti-psychiatry movement is ridiculous as well. Okay. I get it. I'm angry. I've been hurt by psychiatry. I've also been saved. Okay. So we need nuance in these discussions. So bipolar people, we talked about, you're on a roller coaster of emotion. Okay. Mine is daily. I literally I do so much every day. I'm 33. I have been suicidal for 13 plus years. What I mean by that is I had a gun in my mouth at 31. I had no reason objectively to feel that way. This is pathophysiology. This is chemical malfunction in the brain. Okay. And some of the greatest leaders in history had signs of mood disorders. The problem with bipolar is a lot of the times you die, and then that's when we figure out, oh, you were bipolar, right?
So I'll give some. Were there any great figures we know who were bipolar?
Yeah. So there's actually a book. It's called First Rate Madness. It's written by a psychiatrist. It's wonderful. And here's some names, right? Winston Churchill was classic bipolar. Classic bipolar. Without him, you can argue about whatever. I don't like this stuff about, oh, well, he's bad with this. Winston Churchill wasn't around. We would be speaking German around the world. Okay. So Winston Churchill, Martin Luther King actually attempted suicide. So my love and empathy comes from being in such pain. Suicidal depression is arguably hell in your brain. So it's described as this bipolar depression because I oscillate. So I go up and down so fast that I can shift rapidly. So I can go from feeling amazing and feeling like a demigod, as in I am Hercules, right? To I want to kill myself in a split second. In a split second. So you tell me what that's like. You tell me what that's like to ride that roller coaster and live that way. Bipolar really peaked around 20. Typically bipolar, traditional. I'm like kind of classic bipolar 1, which is rare that I'm alive. I should have died. I've had a wild life of drugs, alcohol, self-medication. I've lived 10 lives. Does that make sense? Like it doesn't make sense that I'm alive. Like, so yeah, does that summarize it a bit? Sorry, I go off on tangents.
So I'll just come back. Just to briefly give statistics, like in India, it is said that 1 in 150 person are actually bipolar. And I think that in the US, it comes to something like 2.8 or 3%. That's how it is. And the current prevalence of bipolar disorder is around 6 to 9% when we compare with all the other psychiatric illnesses. So this is how it is. And I think in India, we still have some sort of stigma for mental illnesses. Though now, of course, now people are going ahead. People are accepting these disorders, And I think there is no shame in discussing this also, because we now understand that this is not something strange, but then it's a disorder. It's probably it could be linked to some metabolic disorder also. It is as good as people are getting hypertension or possibly diabetes. Now, very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So Francis, very interesting thing is like I wanted to know how you came across, how you found a solution in ketogenic diet. So we are very keen to know.
Yeah. So I've done everything. I've spent $100,000+ myself on health and mental health. Again, I've struggled with suicidal ideation for 13+ years. Even 6 months ago, I actually rebuilt my life in the last 6 to 9 months. Phoenix from the ashes, I call it. I've tried 16 medications. I'm gonna list them off. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've tried Abilify, Latuda, lithium twice, Lamictal, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, Ritalin, Adderall, Buspar, Ativan, Visceral, Seroquel, Klonopin, Zyprexa, Caplyta, and Cymbalta. So I have tried traditional psychiatry. Okay. So I wish I could take a pill and I could eat cake. That would be nice, right? Because eating a strict ketogenic diet, which I keep my ketone levels between 1 and 3 because I have a serious brain disorder, right? I don't drink alcohol. I never will again, because it's not worth, I can put myself into hypomania. I can put myself into it. I understand how. Like, I woke up this morning, I live with mania. Does that make sense? Like, the literature will tell you, oh, hypomania needs to be treated all the time. You don't understand. Okay. Like, I tried these medicines and I've had horrific side effects. I've actually never fully recovered from them. Did you know that? I don't know if you know some of the side effects of these medicines. Zoloft, for example, sertraline. It's a top 5 prescribed medication in the world. It's an SSRI for antidepressant. I took it at age 26. It's antidepressant. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm depressed. I'm suicidal. I did anabolic steroids. I was running away from my diagnosis because no one wants a bipolar diagnosis. My psychiatrist, which I paid cash, she was a neurologist / psychiatrist. She put me on Zoloft, Ambien, and Ativan, which is very dangerous. 25 milligram of Zoloft, I went from suicidal to hypomanic. 25 milligram. I thought I was cured. Yeah. So I'm the most dangerous form. And I've been psychotic. I actually had manic psychosis last. It was wild because I'm Asperger's, right? So I'm able to actually articulate and fight off psychosis and still be in and out coherently. When I became manic psychotic, I didn't believe I was bipolar 1. I am strict bipolar 1. I just don't fit the standard clinical picture, right? I'm outside the standard deviation. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to people? Am I speaking?
Yeah.
Well,
so
okay.
I'm again coming to the point. How did you discover ketogenic diet?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I went on Joe Rogan years ago, and I love Joe Rogan because he has experts on. So how I look at it is I listen to experts, I listen to what they say, I read their books, and I research them myself. Why should I reinvent the wheel? That's silly, right? So I saw Sean Baker. I am so grateful for him. I really want to be on his podcast soon. He is part of the reason why I'm alive today. So Sean Baker is an orthopedic surgeon. He's an Air Force veteran. And I was doing a vegetarian diet because the nutritional guidelines in America when I was 26, so it's like 7 years ago, something like that, 6, 7 years ago, he was saying that red meat saved his life or changed his life, right? And I was like, okay, he's an orthopedic surgeon. He makes $600,000, $700,000 a year just replacing joints all day. He's got a great life, right? Pretty easy. So he went against the establishment, started doing low carb diets and seeing unbelievable results, not only for himself, because he was having metabolic issues personally, but also for his patients, right? So his incentives were, his heart's in the right place, right? He gave up a lot to help people. And I saw that. So, and then I tried it. I said, all right, I'm going to try it. I love red meat. I miss it, right? And I was on Zoloft at the time, which I just talked about. I was on Zoloft and I started feeling better. I was eating a ton of steak. I still drank, but I was eating a ton of steak and I was like working out. And I was like, wow, I feel stable. Does that make sense? My brain's on fire every day. So when I do keto, 3 days is all it takes. Keto, my brain calms down. Okay. My brain is on fire. So medications are kind of like a fire extinguisher, right? Ketogenic diet, which has 40 plus known mechanisms right now that we know of, right? That's why ketogenic diet is one of a kind. Objectively, it's the only diet that can be tracked, right? Objectively, because you can monitor blood ketones, which I do. So it's amazing. So I knew then with Sean Baker, I was like, oh my God, I'm onto something. So I got off Zoloft. I was stable for like 4 months, which again, I didn't think was possible. Like I was cycling worse and worse and worse. Like every episode with bipolar was getting worse. Does that make sense? Every up and down, every time I crashed, the suicidal thoughts got worse. It got so dark, man. Like I had a gun in my mouth at 31, and I don't objectively have a reason to do that. I mean, I guess I do with all the trauma I have. Again, I'm a gold medalist in trauma, but yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
you hearing Joe Rogan as well as Sean Baker, I think that was the pivotal in changing your lifestyle to get it under control or remission. In fact, you'll be happy to know that we had a podcast with Sean Baker 2 years back.
Yeah. Can you reach out to him? Because I'm trying to like get on his podcast, and I'm like, just it's like word of mouth or something. Like people hit me up, and they're like, I don't know how they reach me. Social media is kind of confusing. Like I don't know how big of a following I have. I don't really understand. Like, social media is weird.
So Francis, other than ketogenic diet, what else have you found it useful? How about exercise?
Oh yeah. Well, I started exercising in 4th grade. So my mom and dad are both very strong people. I come from very strong genetics, and I worked out heavy in 4th grade, which is against the literature. I can't stand this whole got to be careful for kids and pediatrics. Instead, now we have pediatrics are so obese that have advanced chronic disease, right? That's a separate topic, trying to go on tangents. Yeah, I started working out 4th grade. It helps every day. I work out 3 to 4 times a week. I lift, I body build. You're going to see a fitness photo shoot come out in, I do it next week. So I'll probably have pictures in a couple weeks. The reason why I do that is because I try to lead by example as a clinician. People have asked me, are you a trainer? Are you a nutritionist? No, I kind of do it all, and I'll just show you. I think you should lead by example. So exercise is absolutely key.
Fine. So you do exercise, you do bodybuilding, and how about the benefit of sun exposure? You think additional sunlight exposure helps?
100%. Bipolar has a strong circadian rhythm component. Okay. So for me, I try to go to bed at the same time every day. And you have to understand, I have to be so cognizant of my internal environment because it's scary. I don't want to be hospitalized again. I've been in a psychiatric hospital twice, and the worst place for me is a bottled up environment. I am a free spirit. I'll just go AMA in the future because I know more than what a lot of psychiatrists do, which is fine. And I'll let them know. I'm like, hey, hopefully I never have to be hospitalized, but if I have to, the hospital's there, I'll use it, right? So acute psychiatry is actually the best form. Chronic and preventative management is horrendous. Can we agree on that? Horrendous. Yeah. Horrible outcomes. Horrible. Yeah. Across the world.
Francis, do you think supplements have some role in recovery?
Yeah, they're overrated.
You recommend?
They're overrated. So the first key, which nothing is better, is ketosis. Okay, for severe brain disorders, ketosis. Okay, and I don't care how you get to it. It means ketones in the brain. Yeah. Okay, that's what that means. Nothing comes close. 40 plus different known mechanisms right now, and I already specialize in it because of how much I know. Okay, but I'll be trained by Dr. Georgia Eid, and my clinic that opened in March. Again, I'll be focusing on that. So ketosis first. The next is probably sleep. Okay? I would say sleep management. I'm talking going to bed at the same time every night. Okay. And I'm talking, for me, sometimes I need 5 hours of sleep. That's okay. I've struggled with sleep since I was a baby. So I probably have the gene mutation where actually I don't need 8 hours of sleep. Technically, does that make sense? Have you heard about that? So my brain is so high powered, which we can get into theory and stuff. Like I slept 5 hours last night, but I actually recovered from recent hypomania. I feel like I got hit by a truck physiologically. So there's a disconnection from the mind and the body with bipolar, right? So I can feel my body tired, right? I'm like, wow, I'm tired. My sensory levels increase, right? I'm talking severe. I'm talking every sensation you have, anything from sexuality to vision, hearing, to touch and feel. And that's a very common sign of Asperger's and then also bipolar disorder, right? So I would say ketosis, sleep, stress management, huge one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think
no
other
alcohol?
supplements like, let us say, melatonin, or maybe anything which powers the mitochondria?
Yeah.
Do you
So
think those supplements are useful?
I think they can be helpful. I just think, they're not regulated. Okay. So you don't know what you're getting. Okay. And I've tried 100+ supplements. Okay. So again, I'm going to give you my plan. And this is probably a plan that other people are going to try to imitate. So it's kind of going to annoy me because I just created it right now in my head. But this is how I do it is I would do ketosis first, ketone level specifically, guided with a psychiatrist that specializes in metabolic psychiatry, okay, which is only a few of us. So ketosis, I would do sleep, stress management, I would do exercise, I would do sunlight exposure, which key is time of the day. Dr. Andrew Huberman, which I'm sure I'll be on his podcast eventually. He's a wonderful man, one of the top scientists in the world, talks about one of the keys is early exposure. It triggers a hormonal pathway based on your retina, and it precipitates your body preparing for sleep that night. So do you see how I have 6 interventions before I even talk supplements?
Yeah.
So supplements, yeah, they can help. Okay. But a lot of it is oversold. They're not regulated. Okay. A lot of it, they've done studies and there's like fillers and crap in it. So when I open my clinic, we have a supply chain, right? The only products we offer are high quality, vetted. If we ever find there's a problem, you're fired. You understand, right? So I practice results-based medicine. What that means is if you're a patient of mine, which I can only take 100 to 200, if you're a patient of mine and you don't see progress in 3 months, I will fire myself, okay? Or I will refer you because I have an amazing referral network, top specialists in the world, and they have amazing bedside manner, or we will change interventions. Demand better from your doctor. That's your right as a patient.
So Francis, have you ever come across adverse reaction of medication, like maybe hair fall, maybe constipation? Have you
Yeah.
How did you overcome some of the adverse effect?
Well, let's talk about the main one. I'm an advocate for this because I'm actually researching with top experts. There's a condition called post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. It is in the literature. Okay. So I took Zoloft 6+ years ago. I have never recovered sexually since. Never. I operate at around 70%. That's with being extremely healthy and Cialis, Viagra, that kind of thing. So imagine being put on an antidepressant, one of the most common prescribed drugs in the world, and they have post effects. And it's not just sexual. There are groups of people that have anhedonia, meaning emotional blunting. So imagine having no emotional trajectory ever again. So pharmaceutical, you're at fault for this, big pharma, all of you, but you need to help fix it. Okay. So you created this monster. The SSRIs their efficacy is probably 10 to 15%. Okay. They're actually most beneficial from a placebo, right? And we're talking Prozac, Zoloft, whatever, all the, Paxil, all the same thing. We actually don't know how they work. All you have to do is look up. I mean, you worked in pharmaceutical. All you have to look up is the mechanism of action, and it says unknown exact etiology. How ridiculous is that? And then you have psychiatrists go, PSSD doesn't exist. Actually, it does. Here's the literature. Please read. Yeah, the patient's the expert, okay? So you are not. This is how do you say it? Iatrogenic? How do you say iatrogenic, which is a medical term for medical harm from pharmaceutical. So you're actually, I'm leading research in this. So that's part of my YouTube channel, because I know people that actually have taken their life because they went from, they took 3 pills of Zoloft or Lexapro and they never recovered. That's sad, and do antidepressants help certain people? Sure. Are they overprescribed? 100%. They're mostly prescribed by family physicians. I have a family practice background. So, and I personally actually tolerated antipsychotics more. So they have a worse name. It's just basic marketing, right? So Abilify, which is an antipsychotic that's used broadly now, Abilify saved my life in the hospital. I went from suicidal. I took 2 milligram. I was scared, right? I was scared to take an antipsychotic because I was like, wow, it's, affecting dopamine and has heavier side effects. Next day, actually not even that. It was because I cycle so fast. I went from suicidal depression to like some calmness within a couple, that night. Yeah. So, but Abilify, I went up to, I was only at 2 milligram. That's very low, right? You know a lot about medicine, right? Abilify, didn't affect me sexually. Not really. Again, I was altered from Zoloft, but I had constipation so bad. I had to digitally disimpact myself. I had to take a glove and shove it up my rectum and pull the poop out because I had to go to the hospital. I was at 10 out of 10 pain. I think people don't understand. True constipation like that, it's an emergency. I was a former nurse practitioner, so I could do that. Can you imagine the pain from that? So I wish Abilify worked like it did work, but it also caused these horrific side effects. I also had severe fatigue. I had dizziness. I had nausea. I had, if you look at the side effects of any psychiatric medication, it's probably 15 plus. I don't know. I had crushing chest pain from heartburn I never had. 9 out of 10 pain. I'd literally have to almost cry because I'd be at work on Abilify and I'd have to take 15 minutes. Does that make sense? Horrific side effects. Lithium was actually, lithium's interesting, right? Lithium is, it's a salt, basically. It's on the periodic table. I kind of liked how it was natural. Lithium caused sexual dysfunction at just 300 milligrams, lithium carbonate. The literature says, no, not really. Yes, it does. It works centrally and peripherally on nitric oxide and on different mechanisms. So again, we don't understand a lot. I'm in talks with some of the top experts in the world, and lithium has a similar effect to keto. So again, that's actually an example of classic bipolars. I respond to lithium. Yeah, there's two types of bipolar.
Fine. So Francis, any particular food you think we should avoid other than the high carbohydrate, sugar and alcohol you said? You think we should be able to, we should be able to avoid any particular food?
Anything that is stimulating, right?
Okay.
Anything that's going to cause inflammation. Sugar.
Yeah.
Absolutely limit that. I don't care who you are. Sugar is arguably as bad as heroin. It has the same chemical pathway. So sugar is a disaster. And I don't mean eating berries, right? Because I still eat a little bit of blueberries. That's it. But no sugar, no alcohol. Stop it. I quit alcohol 5 months ago. I'll never drink again. Bipolar, I could tell you, is a metabolic issue in the brain. I could prove it with just me as a case study. When I drink alcohol, I get high from it. Okay. And then I used to self-medicate with alcohol. So in my 20s, I would drink 10 to 15 drinks with the intention to be hungover. Does that make sense? That's classic self-medicating. It would numb me the next day, so at least it would turn my brain off. So I believe it's because alcohol is processed differently than traditional glucose. So it seems that bipolar your brain does not utilize glucose the same way as a non-bipolar brain. That's as simple as I can make it. So,
fine. So Francis,
yeah.
What is the role of coaching the family members? You think how important it is?
Yeah. So, I got to go into mental health. I won't go into, I'll be doing metabolic psychiatry, which I cannot ethically go into traditional psychiatry because I already know so much of it and I live it, so and I have Asperger's, so I've like read all the literature. So when a top psychiatrist wants to talk with me, like I know it. And I'm also, a case study that hasn't been done yet. What was the question again? Sorry, I lost track. What was the question?
Do the family members need coaching?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So a very important thing to do with your psychiatrist is a pedigree chart. That's a family tree. Okay. Diagnosis matters. Okay. It doesn't mean you always need to be medicated. What you need to look for are signs and symptoms of bipolar disorder. Okay. So we already talked about how bipolar is underdiagnosed. Actually, it is overdiagnosed. Yes, I get it. All these psychologists out there that are like, bipolar doesn't exist. Bipolar doesn't exist. Okay, whatever. Talk to bipolar people like myself, and other bipolar people be like, oh my God, I'm like him. Like, we speak a language. Okay. And we recognize it very quickly. I recognize bipolar people so fast. It's amazing. I'm like, oh, you've been on an antidepressant 10 years and you're not better. Like, maybe we should try something else. Like, I don't know, like a Lamictal, has a better side effect profile. So you need to find out signs and symptoms from your family. You want to look for alcohol abuse, drug abuse, suicide, erratic behavior. You want to look for, people like in the past generations, they would call bipolar people, special, gifted, disabled, crazy. Does that make sense? You need to look for behaviors. Okay. Because many bipolar people die, okay, early because we suffer. And, that's what I'm telling you. It's underdiagnosed. It might be like, yeah, it's definitely 5% for sure. Very underdiagnosed. I'm misunderstood completely.
How do the family members, or how will you yourself take care when you have the suicidal symptoms? What have you done to prevent?
Yeah,
suicide?
so I created a safety plan because I read the literature and whatever. And when I get suicidal thoughts, the first thing I do is I give my guns to my dad. So I have 5 guns. I'm a disabled veteran. I am allowed to have guns. So I do not like this thing that if you have mental health, you're not allowed to have them. That's a more complicated argument. That's not fair. Okay. I'm allowed. I'm a veteran. I'm safe. I've never actually attempted suicide. Okay. Been close. And if I did attempt, I would complete. That's the type of bipolar I am. When I get suicidal depression, I still have mixed mania. So what that means is I'm just as depressed as the person that lays in bed for 9 days straight, but I still have mania energy. My suicidal, God, like I said, I should have died 20 years ago. It's wild. It's yeah. I thank you for having me. It's just nice to be heard. People like listen, and I hope it helps people. That's all. I wish there was someone else like me.
So Francis, now that you are in remission,
yeah,
you are in remission now. Do you get such episodes again? Depression?
Yeah.
Or
so
how frequent it is?
Well, I'm rapid cycling, right? Rapid cycling is 4 episodes plus per year. I'm still healing. I'm working with a naturopath right now. I'm working with a PCP that specializes in men's health. And I'm also getting an evaluation from a top Asperger's autism specialist in the world, Dr. Nemechek out of Buckeye, Arizona. He sees patients from all over the world. I have to go to the top experts in the world because there is no evidence of me. So what I'm saying, there's going to be doctors out there. The humble doctors will listen, right? And then there will be doctors that make up, their own, I don't know, based on their behavior and what they see. There's something called sampling bias. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
So I'm going to explain that. So sampling bias is, if you're at a psychiatrist, right? All you see are the patients that you see. That's it. There's a lot of people with mental health, like the African-American community, very strong group of people. They do not seek mental health. It's based in the culture, right? They have strong family values. They're very strong people. They do not seek mental health care. The Caucasian community seeks mental health care. I went to a world-renowned treatment center. It was 80% white people. Like, we have sampling bias. sampling error, whatever. Does that make sense? Like psychiatrists don't know everything. All they see is the people that come see them. Like most people with Asperger's never get seen, adult Asperger's, because they're so smart. We don't care about labels. I actually don't like labels. I don't want to be labeled. My name's Frank. That's all I care about. But I have to have these labels so people respect what I am. And clinically, I'm so rare that unfortunately I have to tell my story because I couldn't find anyone. I wish I could. If I could, I would just create businesses and stuff. That's actually what I like to do. I'm classic bipolar 1. So I love to create every day, nonstop.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I think it's a very interesting story, Francis. And
yeah, it's a lot, man. It's wild.
And the world deserves to know about your story and how a ketogenic diet can actually get it under remission, get it under control. So, Francis, what I'll do is some of the people here are raring to ask some questions. So I'll throw open to the audience if they want to ask any question. Please make it very, very brief.
Got you. Okay.
Anyone wants to ask Poshini or anyone else, they can unmute themselves and ask. So I gave the option to unmute. So anyone can unmute and they can ask. Karan, you want to ask?
Yes.
Yeah, Karan.
Hi, Francis. I actually had several questions, but I'll try and stick to a few of them.
Yeah, so this is Yogesh. Am I audible?
Yeah, Francis. Karan, you can answer. You can speak.
Yeah. So after you transitioned to a ketogenic diet, were you able to sleep without psychiatric medication?
Yeah. So the last 4 medications I was on, which is, 5-6 months ago, I had to do a lot of this myself. I tried 16 medications. I was still actively suicidal and suffering. So, I had to keep trying, right? And I learned that actually ketosis was the key. I thought it was medication. Medication helped a little bit, but you have to be careful because when you go into ketogenic diet, it's very common to switch to hypomania or mania. Very common. I really understand my internal environment. So you need to walk with a top psychiatrist that specializes in metabolism. Okay. Because, mania ranges for all of us, right? I've been manic psychotic. I've been very fortunate not, to get arrested or violent. Okay. I have the same pain as the people at the state hospital, the same condition. And I have more of that story I'll tell on another podcast and stuff, but you have to be careful. You cannot do this. I don't recommend it on your own, especially if your bipolar has an extreme mania component. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You can get dangerous and you can switch because your brain's going to go from glucose metabolism to ketones. So you're going from, you're putting rocket fuel in your brain. Your brain heals very, very quickly. So for me, I notice 3 days. Okay. Like anxiety gone in 3 days. I'm like, wow, that's wild. I have panic attacks. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I have horrific anxiety and it's gone. Does that make sense? So you have to be careful if you're true bipolar. Bipolar is real. So please be careful. If you do ketogenic diet, I highly recommend someone walking with you and having maybe some medications just in case, right? This is a point where, maybe you need sleep medicine, right? Because for some people, one bad night of sleep for me, I can go hypomanic. Right. So again, understand your own bipolar. So be careful. Is what I say. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
No, the only thing, the challenge over here in India is, we don't have any metabolic psychiatrists. Okay. So I've suffered myself since 11 years, at least.
Yeah, bipolar?
Well, I was first diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, then bipolar disorder.
Yeah. So the diagnoses are kind of semantics, but if you're in the bipolar family, let's just say you're in the family. Okay. Who cares about the diagnosis? You're in the family. You have a brain metabolic issue. That's what you have. That's actually what you have. Okay. So when you do it, okay, I can't be your clinician, but I'm going to tell you like how I did as a patient. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because I'm a clinician, right? I have a medical license. So I have to protect that here in America because I treat patients and I get paid well to do so. And as a patient, if you have bipolar, you're on the spectrum, whatever, for anybody, it's very common. Dr. Chris Palmer talks about it. Dr. Georgia E talks about it. Be careful. Monitor it quickly, okay? Because mania can escalate. You can go into psychosis, okay, if it's possible. Not every brain's has that available to them. But if you've been suffering, man, you know, as a patient, I had to do ketosis. I had nothing else. I was signing up for assisted suicide at 35. Does that make sense? I was that, there's a point in life that it's not worth living. And I cannot stand when someone says, there's always a point in living. No, I have Asperger's. There's a point where, you know, you've been through enough suffering and assisted suicide is an option. And, you know, that's reality. So does that answer your question? So be careful, but if you have to try it, just monitor it really close, because sleep, like we talked about, what did I talk about? You two need to follow all my social media, because I do free content to help. I won't have enough time here because I'm going to blow up on the social media. So I need your help to spread my message. So please go on my YouTube, my Instagram, whatever. I share all this stuff for free, because like you said, in India, you don't have these psychiatrists, right? We don't have many in America. I'm getting trained, next month, January. Sorry, I'll be trained in January by Dr. Georgia Eid, who specializes in metabolic psychiatry. So I'm one of the leading experts in the world right now. And I'm saying that because I think my IQ is like 180, and then I'm a bipolar 1 patient that shouldn't be alive. So I'm speaking as a patient and as a clinician, read all the literature I can. So I get it. If you're a bipolar patient and you are suffering, just be careful. Okay, I get it. I get it that you're suffering every day. The roller coaster we talked about earlier, right? Remember we talked about this? Mm-hmm. Like that roller coaster, it only takes 8 pounds of pressure to end your life. Do you know what that means? No. With a weapon, with a gun, okay? With a gun, 8 pounds of pressure. So what that means is 1 split second, you're never coming back. So I get it. If you are bipolar or you have mental health and you're suffering and you don't have doctors there, because we don't have enough doctors in the world. That's a crisis across the world. Be careful. Try it. Be careful. Follow me on social media. I'll tell you what worked for me. I can do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have been seeing your posts on Twitter. So yeah.
Good. I'm just saying, like, I need help. I'm going to blow up really fast, and I'm not going to be able to like answer individual questions anymore, because it's actually not good for my mental health. I was spending 7 hours a day on social media. That was actually ramping me. Can you imagine how that's not good for your brain?
Yeah, even I restrict my social media use because I realize the pressure it builds.
Yeah. And I have people that, like, you know, hurt my feelings. Reddit, for example, I've had to block multiple people that call me names. I've been blocked off Reddit. Reddit is a toxic disaster of an app. Other professionals block me because they can't argue with me. I could debate anyone in the world. I don't know if you believe that, but I could debate anyone with bipolar, anyone in the world. I went to the top bipolar specialist in the world, and I mean that. He was the Michael Jordan of bipolar, and he's like, I've never seen you before in 40 years. He was 80 plus years old. So imagine that I have to do this, even though, like, I don't want this fame, and I don't want this negativity I'm getting from people, which hurts my feelings. You know, it's not nice. So I'm having to put boundaries on myself, because I need to take care of myself. Like, I'm done sacrificing my life. Like, I have to put my oxygen mask on first while I help people. So I need each and one of you to, you know, please, like, listen to what I say, listen to the words. I'm going to help bipolar a lot. So listen to what I say, understand, like, bipolar is a blessing and a curse, right? You have gifts no one talks about. Hypomania, if it can be throttled, okay, I call it throttled, is a superpower, right? Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Ted Turner. I mean, there's all kinds of people, right? We think celebrities. I'm talking about actual leaders that made a difference. Celebrities are not good examples of mental health. You know why? Because they don't have a regular life. I do. I don't come from money. Okay. I served the military myself. I have good family friends. That's fine. But, you know, I was molested, sexually abused, abandoned, neglected. I've almost died 5 times in car accidents. I've had 5 concussions. I literally, you know, I don't know, man. I've had a wild life. So does any of that help? Or is that too much?
Yeah, thanks. Karan, you had any
I have one question.
Yeah. Mr. Venkatesh, yeah.
Mr. Francis, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Actually, you said you are on a ketogenic diet, and actually, I'm also looking at one patient who's having schizophrenia. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I have been treating him on a ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
So I have got some of the medicines removed also, and he's now on remission, more or less, because because I had a talk with Dr. Palmer.
Good. Yeah. Dr. Palmer's amazing.
Yeah.
It's hard. Dr. Eden. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
So actually, I wanted to know from you how deep in ketosis you're keeping yourself, and is it going to be on a daily basis? Are you checking yourself? What is it you're doing?
Yeah. So I do not. I use these terms so you try to understand. I don't like. I'm not a big fan of testing. Okay. I do it because I have to. I do it because I have to, right? I know when my ketone levels are in a healthy range because I can feel it. I can feel it. Tim Ferriss talks about it. So for the average patient, you need to check. Okay.
Yes.
For schizophrenia, for bipolar, for seizures, for Alzheimer's, dementia, alcohol use disorder, whatever, any brain disorder, right? Dr. Georgia E advised me. She has benefits with ketone levels between 1 and 3. That's what I notice. When my ketone levels are between 1 and 3, I notice benefits. If you have a serious brain disorder, you need to check. Okay. Now, when you get in remission for a long period of time, hopefully you understand your internal environment, and then maybe you don't have to check as often. Does that make sense? But someone with schizophrenia, very serious. They hear voices, they see things. I've been psychotic. It is very painful. It's between a dream and a nightmare. You lose control. It's very scary and very dangerous. And for schizophrenia patients, most of the time, the voices they hear are negative and hurtful. If you can imagine how painful that is. Very painful.
The episodes have completely come down. There are no more episodes for the last 2-3 months.
Exactly. It's a same thing as bipolar.
I'm not checking for the ketones. He's doing an OMAD and 1 meal a day, and I'm taking care so that he's always in ketosis. That is one thing.
I'm a big believer on what's working for that patient, right? Every patient needs individualized care. Yeah, you know, we have some ranges and stuff, right? But everyone is a N of 1. Okay, so what I care more about is how that patient's performing. That's what I care more about. That's the first question I ask every patient. I don't care about these silly numbers. We can get in all these numbers. What I care about is, you know, I practice real medicine, right? I practice critical thinking and objective thought processing. So when I see a patient, like I ask them, how are you feeling? That's the first question. I don't care about anything else. And then let's get into the numbers, right? So does that make sense?
Correct.
So
correct.
great work.
One other thing is, see, after you have stopped the medicines for last about 2 months or so, the side effects of this medicine stopping, I think there is quite a lot of side effects are there.
Yeah,
is what is really.
Yeah, I'm still healing. I don't know if I'll ever recover. I mean, I've taken 16 medications, 16 in the time span of, and that's 16 with different combinations, guys. Like you're talking. I mean, oh my God, what have I done to my body metabolically? Like, I don't know. Like here's an example. My testosterone fell 50%. In my LH and FSH, which is hormone markers that signify fertility in men, basically dropped to basically where I was infertile. So I want to have a family. So these medications damage you metabolically. That's actually probably how they work, right? Because they're working on metabolism. And I like, what do I do? Do I take these medications and die 20 to 30 years earlier? Because that's actually the statistics, right? My lipid levels were messed up. My inflammatory markers were up. Metabolically, I'm still healing. So I actually took extra clinician training. It's a psychiatrist out of Florida. It's called Free Range Psychiatry. She's amazing. Oh my God. She's a medical doctor from New York. And I took her training on how to get patients off medications, because we are not taught in traditional medicine how to deprescribe, especially for psychiatric medication. We have no literature on it. Basically, it's an abomination.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you send me a link or something for this doctor so that we can also contact him?
You could just Google it. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I guess, or you can email me. It's just Free Range Psychiatry. It's out of Florida, in America. Free Range Psychiatry. You can tell her I sent you. I love her. She's amazing. She was a patient herself. She recovered, got off all medicines. She's holistic, but she understands the medicines very well. So I like that, because this anti-psychiatry movement is killing people too. Like they're like, oh, all the psychiatric medications are poison. Well, there's a balance, right? Like medications save my life. They also harm me. So please, can we stop with this all or nothing thinking? Can we stop with that? Like,
Thank you. Intelligent. Yeah, but Dr. Vimla, you want to ask any question? There's a doctor here.
Okay.
Dr. Vimla?
I think I have put it on the chat box. I wanted to know exactly what the ketogenic diet is and what is the range you have to get in.
Oh, you want me to? I'll give you the quick rundown. You want me to give you? Let me give you the rundown.
1 to 3 scale. I didn't understand that.
Okay. So typically the brain is running on glucose. That's sugar. Okay. That's because most of our diet is carbohydrates, which is relatively new to the human species and probably the biggest problem in the health field, arguably. So with ketosis, what it is you're breaking down fats because you don't have enough carbohydrates to utilize glucose for the brain to metabolically function. Does that make sense? Your brain needs fuel to run. Okay. So typically the most brains run on glucose or sugar. That's fine. For some people, whatever. For me, I have a brain disorder, bipolar. So I have to run on ketones, which means that when I break down fat, right? Protein, carbohydrates, fat. I break down fat and that produces ketones. You can monitor those levels, right? There's a range and, I don't have time to go into too much of science. You can research more, but ketone levels 1 to 3 seem to work for more severe brain disorders. Okay. Does that make sense? Like it's like jet fuel for your brain. My brain is healing every day for the last 5-6 months. I am getting more memories back. I can feel my stomach healing. I can feel my stress levels being reduced. I can feel, does that make sense? Like,
Francis, I'll just explain to Dr. Vimla. Dr. Vimla, it is when we keep the carbohydrates very low, less than 30 grams. Less than 30 grams a day. It can go even lower. It can go to even, let us say, 20 grams a day also. And how you can measure that 1 to 3 is we can measure what is called as blood ketone. We can use freestyle ketone meters, which are available in India through Abbott. And what he says 1 to 3 is, it is just nothing more than millimoles per liter is what we measure. So typically, like I am in a low grade ketosis. I follow a egg-based vegetarian diet. My ketone levels are typically 0.5 millimoles per liter. So that's how it is. So it can be, it can be upwards to 1 to 3 also. So that is where the carbohydrates are even lower and the fats are even higher, so that you raise the ketones to 1 or 3 millimoles. So that's how it is. So you reduce the carbohydrate, increase the fat and protein to some extent. So that's how it is. So we can get it done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
you for explaining it.
Yeah. Any more questions? Poshini, you have any question? Karan, you want to ask any question?
Yeah. About free range psychiatry, any idea if the website is freerange.org?
Yeah, just Google Free Range Psychiatry, Florida, Arizona. I forget her name. Here, just give me a second. Can I Google it real quick? Give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hang on, I'll Google it. Tell her I sent you too, because like She's amazing. And I try to network with the top doctors in the world. Yeah, it's just freerange.org.
Yeah.
So
okay.
she here, what's her name? Again, I took her clinician. You'll actually see me on there as a clinician. So like I said, in March 1st, 2023, I'll be taking, I'm probably going to take international patients as well.
Okay.
I probably will, to be determined. You can actually sign up right now with my practice for a free consultation. I'm getting so many patients. It's hard to track, but basically by March 1st, I'm going to have a lot of people reach out to me, I think. And I'll be doing consultations as well with a ketogenic diet and mental illness. And I can work with your psychiatrist. I'm a family nurse practitioner. So technically I'm like your family doctor. So I can actually do pretty much everything. Right. But, I'm going to have specialized training in metabolic psychiatry. So I can work with your psychiatrist. I don't want to deal with your, even though I know the heavy psych meds and I can still prescribe like, the milder ones. I'll work with your psychiatrist and help you. So you can actually sign up for free at my website. And I can send it to you, man. So you can do it in the show notes. Cause I just want to help people, but yeah, if you go to Free Range Psychiatry, her name's Dr. Kendra Campbell. She's unbelievable. She's unbelievable. She's fantastic, a sweetheart. I found her on TikTok. She speaks the truth. She's had to fight board complaints because, unfortunately, what we're doing is against the medical establishment. And I have people that, have reached out to my bosses, they Google me. It's really not nice. So, anyways, yeah, she's amazing. Dr. Kendra Campbell, one of the top psychiatrists I know of. Yeah.
Okay. And what about your website?
So
sign up.
It's so wild. This is going to blow up so fast. So, and I'm so grateful. So let me see if I come up. Hang on. Let me just Google myself. I don't even start marketing until February. So like I'm really early. So let me see, when you Google my name, I have a very easy way to find me. Just do Francis Levandowski III. You can find my YouTube on there. Let's see what else you can find me on here. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. You can follow me there. But there's a website. Let me get hang on, give me a second. Do I have a second to look it up?
Empatheticmedical.com?
No, I was going to do that. I got something different. So this is called, I got it. It's RHM. So Romeo Hotel Mike .care. So CARE. So Charlie Alpha Romeo Echo /F. Sorry, it's a long name. It's my last name. You can find it. It's on my Twitter. It's on my YouTube. Like you can find it. So it's regenerative health management. I'm part of a company that's building health clinics eventually across the world, but I'll take my own patients. And you can sign up for a free consultation just so I can track you. And then we can have a free discussion about if I'm going to be able to help you or not. Does that make sense? Okay.
So it's rhm.care.
Yeah. /FE Levandowski, my name.
Okay.
/ So I'll send it to you so you can post it with this podcast or whatever. So you can just reach out to me. I don't care. You can my Twitter's growing really fast and all that stuff. So I do respond right now while I can. So if you ask me questions, if you inbox me, I'll try to answer. Again, I was spending 7 hours a day on social media, so that wasn't good for my brain health.
Yeah.
It's not good for my life. So now I have to put some boundaries on it. So yeah, I'll try to help as much as I can.
All right.
Hi, Francis. Prasanna here. Thanks for sharing whatever you're sharing. It's helpful. And do you take ketone esters?
I do not. No. They may be helpful. The actual ketogenic diet works on 40 plus different mechanisms. I wish we could use just exogenous ketones. Okay. All the supplements. There is no shortcut. Okay. I wish there was, guys. I can't have a piece of cake. That's how serious my mental illness is. I am at peace. And I haven't had suicidal depression, not even one suicidal thought in 6 months. And the last 4 medicines I was on was Zyprexa, Caplyta, Adderall, and Buspar. I mean, you're talking heavy medicines, and you know, if they help you, great. I'm not selling supplements, okay? Like, I will if they work, but the evidence is not there yet. So these supplement companies are just making money. It's just not there yet. The easiest analogy is that the ketogenic diet has been used in medical literature for 100+ years to treat seizures.
Okay. So sorry to interrupt you. So the point where I'm driving at is I'm looking at it in the angle of whether raised ketone levels in the range 1, 2, 3 will help something related to Parkinson's also. This is one thing I'm looking at, and how without the ketone esters on a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet, kind of, how is it possible to raise the ketone levels to that extent? That's the context in which I'm
Prasanna, Francis, let me address this. Prasanna, see, we can use this. We can use ketone esters in addition to your lacto-ovo vegetarian ketogenic diet. You can as well use ketone esters, or you can use MCT oils. If you can source a good MCT oil, that is going to definitely raise ketones level, because I have tried on myself.
Okay.
I'm able to push up from 0.5 millimoles to 1 millimole very easily if I have some multiple dose of a good quality MCT oil, which I generally import from US.
Okay.
This you can try at your level. Probably Francis has not tried it. He may not require it because his food pattern allows him to gain a good ketogenic level. But in Indian vegetarian context, it is a little challenge. Okay. But let me tell you, Prasanna, you can as well try. There is no issue. I think that will open up a new avenue for us.
Good. Yeah. I've read that the quality of MCT oil matters. I actually can't tolerate MCT oil. It causes severe gut distress. Right. So I cut out athletic greens. I can't tolerate, I thought athletic greens was good for you, right? It seems like a good product. No, it causes severe gut issues. I obviously have some form of gut dysbiosis, which is, I have a history of antibiotics and stuff like that. Again, I'm seeing Dr. Nemechek out of Buckeye, Arizona. He takes consultations all around the world. He specializes in autonomic medicine. He has his own theory. It's called the Nemechek protocol. You can find him on YouTube. Again, I've had to go to the top specialists in the world. Unfortunately, I go to a regular psychiatrist, and a regular psychiatrist, actually, like a normal one, does not specialize in mood disorders. So I have to go to specific psychologists. I've had 10+ psychologists, 10+ psychiatrists. I had to go to the top bipolar specialist in the world to actually get a bipolar 1 diagnosis. Yeah, he told me in 2.5 hours last April that I was bipolar 1. I was going to kill myself. I was taking M&Ms, meaning I was under medicated. He doesn't know how I'm alive. I have a sex problem and I have an alcohol problem. He had 40 years or has 40+ years of psychiatric experience. No suicides to bipolar. Unbelievable. Neurologist, psychiatrist, neurology background, psychiatry background, psychopharmacology, internal medicine. So, I mean, I learned more from him in like 5 hours. I was actually educating psychiatrists, because unfortunately what happens in medicine is you have some of the most well-known doctors in the world that, when they pass on, their education is lost. It's sad.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Francis. Swati, you had raised your hand. You want to ask something? Swati Nair. Fine. Karan, you want to ask something?
Yeah. Francis, during this whole journey of yours, have you been unemployed? For me, I struggled to hold down a job since 2014. Like, how have you managed to remain a productive member of society?
I'm a rare bipolar. So bipolars already, we talked about what up to 5% of society, maybe, right, is the accurate numbers. It's, they say 1 to 2%. So I'm going to tell you how rare I am. So let's just do some basic statistics, right? So I'm bipolar 1 rapid cycling. So I'm a small portion of that 5%. Okay. I'm a small portion. Mm-hmm. I then have Asperger's, which means my IQ is in the genius range.
Okay.
So I have to be stimulated, man. Like, I have to work. Like, if I don't if I don't keep my mind busy, my Asperger's spins out of control, which leads to bipolar issues. Does that make sense? So there's a blend there. So like I have to work. When I'm suicidal, I have to be at work because I have to like avoid the pain in my brain. So a lot of bipolar, oh God, I'm able to mask, like I'm still able to be, productive, but also I'm actively suicidal. So it's hard, man. I had to go into medicine because the only thing that kept me alive was helping other people. Does that make sense? Like some of us need a job. Like I'll never be able to stop. If I stop doing something, I probably won't make it. Does that make sense? Like, okay. But I've had periods where I had to take time off work. I had to take, I was manic psychotic from childhood exposure last summer. I took 3 months off. I don't know if you've been psychotic, but it took months to come back from that because I didn't know what was real, what was not. I thought it was part of a clinical trial. I thought I was going to meet Joe Rogan, Tony Robbins, all these famous doctors, and I'm smart. So I was like, I lost control of reality. That's what true manic psychosis is, right? And I didn't get violent, but I went to a treatment center and they didn't know how to handle me. I was actually misdiagnosed, which I may get a lawyer because I'm not happy. I was actually assaulted there, and I called the police department and they never even called me back. There's a lot of mental health abuse. That's a big problem. Me having an IQ of like 180, Asperger's with bipolar, I'm 0.001% statistically. Does that make sense? Classic bipolar has to take time off work. I'm not just bipolar. I'm Asperger's. Does that make sense? My intelligence is so high, I have to use it. Like I don't like, it's hard to explain, man. Like I'm trying to explain this in very lay terms. Bipolar, I've had to take off 3 to 4 months. I had to go in a 12-week trauma therapy program. There's only one in Arizona that specializes in complex PTSD, right? I had to go part-time. Like it took months to recover from psychosis, right? But I also need work. I need to have purpose. I need something to allow me to push through the emotional pain of suicidal depression. Does that make sense?
No, I'm just like, I guess your journey is a lot different from where my
everyone's unique,
yeah.
my friend. Everyone's unique.
Yeah.
So I again am a rare form of bipolar. The more common bipolar, right, from my understanding, is there's going to be periods where your brain is chemically on fire. Does that make sense? So your brain's chemically on fire. So there's periods of time where stress levels for me, I can't handle a glass of spilled milk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm in that range.
So yeah, I have periods of that with Asperger's that I still can function and get by. Does that make sense? Okay. So what you're experiencing is normal. So do not, for bipolar, completely normal. When you are actually stable and your brain is healing, you're going to go, I didn't know that this was possible. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to process. You
won't understand until your mind is metabolically healing. Because you'll go, I didn't know my brain could feel this good. I didn't know that peace and calm and being able to have a normal emotional range was possible. Does that make sense?
Trying to process it, Francis.
Okay. Well, listen to me, man. I'm trying to like, to again, follow my social stuff. I'll do a lot more bipolar stuff, as I'm growing. So yeah, just listen. I'm trying to articulate how to, say my story. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying. It's normal what you're experiencing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Francis. Thanks, Karan. I think that's all. I think
I want to speak, sir.
I
want to ask.
Swati, Swati, I had actually called you. Yeah, Swati asked.
Yeah, Shashikant sir, I want to ask 2-3 questions.
Yeah.
I am taking Oxetol 900 mgs aripiprazole 30 mg, Flunil 20 mg, beta-cap 30 mg, and Pacitin 5 mg.
Yeah.
So I have been under medication from AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, since 17 years.
Yeah.
And now I only feel that people do mistakes and they learn from their mistakes and they improve upon their disorders like bipolar disorder or obsessive compulsive disorders. Like, because when I was not that mature earlier, I was making mistakes. So one thing was persisting in me, that whenever I made a mistake, the low feeling of that I have done the mistake, I have done the mistake, I have done the mistake. So this kind of feeling, that low and sad distress feeling, was there inside me for a longer time, is used to persist. So I now I never had a suicidal thoughts. I know, because suicide is a coward activity. So I want to live this life. I want to enjoy this life like other people, but I experience pain inside due to certain negative thoughts or negative feelings, which I am improving upon myself now. So I don't feel that I am an abnormal person in any way, but what type of behaviors should I check in me to say that I am a bipolar disorder person? Because doctors have diagnosed me with mood swings, and in mood swings, bipolar and obsessive compulsive disorder. So what things should I check in me that I am a bipolar disordered person? My second question
can I do the first question, please? Because it's hard for me to do like multiple at one time. I'm gonna do one question. I'm gonna do one question.
Sure,
so you need to listen, okay? Because I care about you. The bipolar community, people with mood disorder, especially bipolar, have the highest suicide rate for a reason. That's because we have to bear the worst pain, arguably, in psychiatric and mental health history. You can't even argue it. There's a reason why we have the highest suicide rate, a 20 to 30 year shortened lifespan. So being alive today means you're a warrior. Does that make sense? So when you have these negative thoughts, you can't believe all negative thoughts. There is psychology in here. So you have to write down and remember that you are a warrior. Like just not attempting suicide. And even the ones that did take their life, they're still warriors. Okay, because this is pure spiritual, mental suffering. You are dealing with hell in your brain, and it is metabolically related. So please just go easy on yourself. Like, I've hated myself for I'm 33 since I was 7. I've hated myself. I have to remind myself multiple times a day, Frank, I have to tell myself literally, people don't hate you.
Right.
Every day, multiple times a day, I have to clarify and be like, when someone questions me, I have to make sure, oh, they don't think you're stupid, because that's what I thought, oh no. So there is power of psychology. I do have to get going soon. I don't know how many more questions you want me to answer. Can I, yeah. I'll answer one more. Yeah.
What could be the Francis sir, I don't want to take the medicines anymore because that is creating difficulty in my marriage. I am now 44. Now 44 and I'm single. And what should be the withdrawal symptoms? I want to know, because doctor has already tapered 2 of my medicines, beta-cap and Pacitin. But so oxetol, Flunil, and aripiprazole, I am taking very high doses.
Yeah. So God, I do videos on this. Okay. I've come off 16 psychiatric medications, and I've had withdrawal symptoms that are horrific. Sometimes the withdrawal symptoms are worse than the medications themselves. Okay. And a lot of psychiatrists will say, oh, that's just your disorder. That it's like, no, it's not. It's actually because these medicines alter the synapses, right? The neurotransmitters in the brain and more in the body. We don't understand the full mechanism of these drugs. We do not. If a doctor says we do, they're a liar, because there's no scientific evidence of that. You just have to look up the drug. It'll say unknown exact mechanism of action. It means we do not understand them. So what that means is if we don't understand the true mechanism of how they work in the body and the brain, how are we going to understand every side effect you have coming off of them? We do not. So I gave you free range psychiatry. She has free support groups. I do free videos, and I will discuss like, you know, what has helped me, right, with coming off these medications. It is possible, but for you, you've been on medications for 17 years. Yes. 17 years. What that means is, what'd you say, like 5 medicines? Like something like that?
Oxetol, 900 mg.
No, how many total? It doesn't matter. I heard some of them. How many total?
5, 6,
5 or something.
5.
So
and Petrol SOS.
Yeah, but okay. So again, you're focusing on the exact medicines. Again, we do not understand the true mechanisms, right? So they're grouped by classes. We don't really understand them. They're kind of generally known. The side effect, or the withdrawal effect, we are not trained on as clinicians. This is new, right? And pharmaceutical does not train us on it. Medicine does not. I have no traditional training in de-prescribing. There's none. So we don't know. I can tell you what has helped me. You can go to free range psychiatry. She talks about it. She has support groups there. This is new science, because pharmaceuticals, they have no incentive to help you get off their medicine. That's not their business model. Does that make sense?
Yeah, true. That's true.
Yeah. So this is the last question, man. I'm sorry. Is there like a last question from the host that you want me to answer? Anything else I need to clarify? Because I'm trying to understand how to take high level information and make it teachable. Does that make sense?
Fine. So Swati, you had one more question, last question.
Yeah, okay. Actually in the month of November every year, I have a mood change. I became either very depressed, full of anxiety, and little stress. Are these three? Everybody faces stress and anxiety. But seasonal. It is every year. Since 3 years, I face this problem. Very bad. I cry a lot, and I could not do anything about stress and anxiety. So otherwise, talking to me, nobody can make out that I am having bipolar or obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay, I get it. So you know, I have Asperger's, so I understand what you're saying. So I can't just fix everybody individually. Okay. So it's very complicated, but it is very common for bipolar disorder. Again, we talked about circadian rhythm, right? Which is hormonal mechanisms based upon awakening and sleeping and things like that, right? So there's definitely a circadian rhythm component. With wintertime, seasonal changes, this is circadian rhythm related, very common to become hypomanic, manic, or depressed, depending, right? So usually in the winter, it's more common. It's called seasonal affective disorder, right? Directly related to lack of sunlight. So there's things you can do that help me. So 15 minutes of sunlight, like I need to get off and go get sunlight right now. Like I'll get 15 minutes with my eyes exposed. So it's, again, we talked about a hormonal pathway. You can go to Dr. Andrew Huberman and he explains it better than I would, but I feel the benefits from getting sunlight before 10 a.m. So I need to go. This is why I'm leaving, because I have to take care of myself. But just pay attention to that. Look up seasonal affective disorder. Look up seasonal changes of bipolar. Follow me. I make videos whenever I can. I don't even market this stuff yet. So it's going to blow up probably it might blow up from this podcast. Like how many people listen to this? I don't know. Like how big is this disseminated? Like
how big is this?
Well, the host, I forget your name, sir.
No, I mean, see,
it's a lot of people. This is from India. So like
a lot of people in India will actually.
Yeah. So like I said, please, I'm doing a lot right now, like a lot. Okay. And you know, I want to get married and have kids, and I sacrifice a lot of my life to help others. And I still do. I still put others before myself. It's just the way I'm wired. So please just help me. Help me build my YouTube, help me build my Instagram, help me build my Twitter. Cause that's how it goes, is these silly algorithms. Like I put out free content and I get like 1 like, and it's like, well, that could have saved a life. And it's like, so help me that way.
Francis, thank you. I think it's time for you to get sunlight. Swati, thank you.
Yeah, I need sunlight, man. I need exactly. I fight it.
It's time for you to get sunlight now.
It's
10 o'clock here. It's probably something like 9:30 or something there.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to me.
Francis, we cannot thank you enough on behalf of D-Life. I want to really thank you for sparing this 1.5 hour for India, so that we can make aware that for bipolar disorder, there's an option called ketogenic diet, and which people can enter into ketosis and get bipolar under remission.
Yeah,
thank
perfect.
Thanks, Francis. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.